Good morning. This is an interesting meditation day in that it's hard to actually call what I did a meditation. So there's all kinds of things going on today that have kind of interrupted the process, like the kids getting into trouble and having to go deal with that, and plans for the day changing because of the weather and having to arrange things. And so it's just been kind of not the way that we think a meditation should go. And even in the length of time that I was meditating, I paused, and it's difficult to, you kind of start over again when you get back to it. And so it just was a more almost non-meditation day. And that was interesting, because then I'm thinking, well, what can I say that's inspiring to people, or a reminder to myself even that's uplifting, when I can't even do my meditation. And then I realized that's what it really is about. I needed to not tie myself up into knots about how it didn't go the way I expect or think or plan or want it to go. And tying ourselves up in knots, that's an interesting phrase. It's funny how we have all of these metaphors for things that, when we start to be able to sense into things deeply, we find out that they're not really metaphors, that they're actual fact. And tying ourselves up into knots is one of them. We get this tension, these little knot points in our bodies that are holding the tension from unresolved emotions and issues and stuff like that. So tying ourselves up in knots, I don't want to do that today. And that's going to be my practice. Even if meditation wasn't the practice that I intended. And let me say that again. This wasn't the practice that I intended. The practice I intended was meditation. And yet, in a way, it's like this seems, there's a resonance to this practice that's more potent than meditation often is. And it's a practice of just being okay. My meditation sucked today, and that's great. And I love that, as Kyle C says. And just saying that, I really love that practice that he has of saying, I feel X, I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel confused, and I love that. Or if that's too big a reach, and that's great. Or if that's too big a reach, and that's okay. And I love what that does. There's this space that it creates around that emotion, and it immediately makes you, as he would say, makes you bigger than the issue. It's like when the feelings come up, like for today, the frustration that wanted to come up about how things were going or not going, when you just stop there at the feeling, then it's so easy to mistake ourselves for the feeling. I am frustrated. which is like saying, I am frustration. Frustration is me at this moment. And as soon as you say, and I love that, or, and that's okay, there's just this, there's this breath around that emotion, and you're no longer under it. You're kind of around it and noticing it, and it's just kind of floating there in a way that gives it more space to dissolve or evolve or shift or even just be. And, we can be with that emotion with more compassion and gentleness because we're not under it. We're not feeling kind of almost violated by the emotion or abused by the emotion or whatever you want to call it. There's that sense of, I don't like this and I don't want this to be happening that we get when we have what we call negative emotions. And so just the practice of allowing space around that emotion, letting it be and loving into it, loving ourselves despite the emotion or through the emotion, beyond the emotion. So that's what my practice is now, today. It's the acceptance of the meditation reality. It's the acceptance of reality in this moment. There were cats, there were issues, there were stuff I had to deal with. The meditation was not as focused as I had intended, and that's okay. And I love that. It's all, as soon as, the other thing that happens when I say that is, as soon as I say, and that's great, and that's okay, or whatever, my mind wants to be right? That's what the ego does. It wants to be right. So immediately it starts hunting around and looking for how that can be so, how I can make that true, or how I can see the truth of that. And sure enough, I find thoughts or ideas and ways that, yes, that's actually okay. That's not a bad thing. So it enlists the ego or the brain, the rational brain, in serving your spiritual growth in a really easy, non-confrontational way. It just sort of gets the ego on board with your spiritual program. So that's a lovely practice. I love that. And basically all I wanted to say is that the practice of being okay with reality as it is, even when, it's our spiritual practice, which is the most important thing that we do, right? Even when that doesn't go as planned, we can accept reality, and that is more powerful than anything else we can do. We can love into what is, and that is way more powerful than anything else we can do. Because immediately we're shifting into love, if we can. We're at least opening up the space for that. We're opening up the space for gratitude, for appreciation, for enjoyment, for compassion and kindness and gentleness. And all of those are what meditation and any spiritual practice are designed to create in the first place. So it is a success. My meditation is a success the moment I can be happy with it, no matter what it was like. That's a practice that we can do not just for that hour that we're sitting, or 20 minutes or whatever, 2 hours that we're sitting in meditation. It's a practice that we can do throughout the day. It's how spirituality becomes life. It's how we're living our spirituality, and that's what our momentum is in this new era of evolution of humanity, is to live our spiritual practice in daily life. No more going off to the mountains and hiding out in a cave and cutting ourselves off from life, from society, from being in the body on the earth. The practices now are around being purely, highly spiritual beings while being in a body, being in a family, being a householder and having houses and kids and cars and, if necessary, and jobs, and making our life the spiritual practice. And this is one of the most beautiful and effective ways to do that, is just to continue to be okay and be happy with what is. Just relax into reality and accept it and go with the flow of it, and continuing to see from a higher perspective that it's okay, and opening up for those divine qualities, those divine energies to come through us. So that's my practice. That's how it was today. Probably will be many more times. And I have something in mind now to do with it and make it beautiful. So, with that intention, I'm going to sign off and wish you the very best of the day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Blessed be.